What's up, everybody? Charlie Rosen here. This is my very first live stream ever, the very first 8-Bit Big Band live stream ever. I'm here with some friends and some special guests to talk to you all about your questions, about Lifelight, about 8-Bit Big Band music, kind of whatever. We're here to celebrate the release of Lifelight, the 664-person virtual community orchestra release, which is honestly, I think to date in my career, the biggest single project I have ever endeavored to put on. And so I want to thank all of you who are out there, who participated, who gave your time for contributing. Can everybody hear me okay? Is everything working? I'm really stressed out that my computer's going to crash. I think it's all going to be good. If anything in the comments, if anything's going wrong, please let me know as soon as we can. Yeah, here we are. I'm just so excited for this video to come out. It really is incredible. I can't wait for you all to see it. It's a feast for the eyes. It sounds amazing. It was mixed amazing. The editing is incredible. You're all going to be able to play a virtual game of Where's Waldo, I think, scrubbing through it slowly to find yourself. I mean, really, truly, I feel like so fortunate that there's so many of you out there that contributed your time. And yeah, here we go. This is a live Q&A. If there's anything you've ever wanted to ask me, ask our special guests, Adam, Neely, and Insaneintherain. Now's the time. And also, literally 10 minutes ago, I thought, hey, we should have some other guests come in. So there's going to be some other surprises along the way. So, here we go. The first special guest I want to bring into this chat is somebody who you may not know personally, but it's very, very important to me and for the land. This is Dak. He's the communications director of MagFest, which you all heard of. And if you haven't heard of, you need to look up immediately. This guy was the first person to discover the band on Reddit and reach out to me and offer his support. And so I want to bring him in to kick off the Q&A and have him ask the first question. So everyone say hi to Dak. Hey, Dak, how you doing?
Dude, what is up?
What's going on?
I'm so psyched for this. This is probably, I think, the biggest video game music endeavor I can even imagine.
And that means a lot coming from a guy who runs a video game music festival with like thousands of people, right?
Dude, yeah, I can't wait for the video. I have like a burning question, and it's a little generic, but it's one that like I think a lot of people probably want to know.
Yeah.
The scope of this is just absolutely enormous. What was your biggest challenge like throughout the entire process?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge for me personally was actually something non-music related. I'm not very organized as far as like file management and spreadsheets go. And so the big thing for me was just really meticulously making sure that every single file got to the video editor, and I kept track of everyone's names, what they played, their emails, everything, and just making sure I downloaded all the files. I had to call Optimum a number of times because they were throttling my internet and I couldn't download all the files. That was the biggest challenge. And then after that, it was just getting all of the audio files together and lined up, sounding good, figuring out what to do with the rhythm section and making sure that everybody was represented while still making like, a piece of audio that would sound big and full to the ear while not being too messy or over the top.
And how do you balance like almost 700 people into one audio file like that?
Very, very carefully and with great care. Our engineer, John Kilgore, who mixes and all of our stuff and engineers it, was really the man behind the curtain. I mean, I sent him all the audio split up. Once I edited it all, I had to put every single instrument into its own session. So all 70 whatever alto saxes I edited and put together, sent those to him. He balanced them. Then he exported each instrument as its own file, put those into a session, and then mixed it as if it were a normal sized orchestra, except instead of alto 1, it was alto 75 or whatever,
Dude.
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely can't wait for the video. It's going to be nuts. And I think we're all like highly anticipating it. So
hell yeah. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Oop, I cut him off. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, if you all don't know MagFest, it's incredible. I got to speak there a few years ago about arranging, and that was sort of the thing that really kicked off this whole project. I'm so happy that Oh, we have another special guest. Excuse my cheesy doorbell sound. I couldn't resist. Hey, look, it's Sydney from Smart Game Piano.
Hi,
hey, Sydney.
everyone. Hi, how are you, Charlie?
Good. You all might know Sydney from our arrangement of Aquatic Ambiance. She's an incredible piano player, and she also has a channel called Smart Game Piano that helps teach you as a pianist how to play some video game music and technique and everything in a really great way. And, I actually have a question for you, if that's okay.
Of course.
I've gotten a lot of questions about where do I get started playing video game music, learning video game music. Can you tell us, like, if you feel like a beginner or you feel like you don't, maybe you didn't have the time to do this, but is there a way that people can just jump in and start learning video game music without a ton of former training.
Yeah. I mean, I believe music is accessible to every person, regardless of what their background is, regardless of what their history with instruction is, what their knowledge of music theory is, because music really is like a biological, innate, primal thing in all of us, right?
Yeah.
So pick a song that you really, really love. You know, I'm partial to video game music, and that's why I do what I do. Maybe you're really into Castlevania, or maybe you're super into Legend of Zelda. Start by learning those tunes. And like, if I may toot my own horn here,
Please do.
check out my tutorials. Like, I make these videos specifically for video game nerds because it is so much easier to learn an instrument if you already have the music in your head. And so pursue that. Don't let years and years of institutionalized, musical education tell you what the wrong way to learn music is. There's more than one way.
Yeah, that is so true. And also, like, that is the thing I keep telling people when they ask is like, start with the music that you already love. It'll be so much more rewarding, even just learning a few notes of a melody that you already really, really like.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's one thing to try to sit down and learn something, it's not in your heart, but it's another thing to unlock something you already have a fondness for.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, hey, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for the premiere and congratulations with everything.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
Yep. And yeah, if you all have seen that video of Sydney playing our arrangement of Aquatic Ambiance, I actually wrote that specifically for Sydney. I found her online. I really liked what she was doing. And the sheet music to that is actually is the only piece of sheet music right now available on the 8-Bit Big Band website. But that takes me to another announcement I want to make. A couple of housekeeping things. I am currently putting together for all of your instrumentalists out there 2 things musically that I think you're all going to love. The first one is what I'm calling the 8-Bit Big Band Omnibook, which will be a PDF collection in concert, treble clef, concert bass clef, E flat, and B flat of all of our select melodies from our arrangements, as well as the solos that were performed by our 8-Bit Big Band members on the albums. So if you play sax or trombone or whatever, piano, guitar, anything, you can download the 8-Bit Big Band Omnibook. I'm going to make it available for free. So anybody out there who wants to play along with the album or learn the solos that were played that are so impressed, clarinet, whatever it might be, I'm putting those out there for you to, really hit the shed in this quarantine and see if you can pick up a few licks here and there. And number 2, I get emailed probably once a day, sometimes more, about releasing the charts for people to use in their high school bands, college bands, and personal bands, amateur, professional bands, whatever it might be. And while I can't sell those charts, people often want to pay them for me because that's a whole licensing thing, publishing thing. I can make them available for free. So in the upcoming weeks, I'm going to start releasing some of those. I'm going to release first Bob on Battlefield, our arrangement from the first album, the full chart, all the parts, the score, for anybody who wants to download and play it as a way to give back to the communities that fostered, my musical love. One of my first intros to large ensemble arranging was playing big band music in high school. And I want to find a way to give back to that. And so I'm releasing the full score and parts to Bob on Battlefield soon, as well as the 8-Bit Big Band Omnibook, which is select melodies and transcribed solos from our albums. Third, and importantly, we just started selling merch. We got some t-shirts available on our website, and half the proceeds are going to a foundation that provides meals for our essential workers and our nurses and people in hospitals on the front line of the disease. So, I'm really looking forward to giving back to you all in this way for contributing your time. I thought there was a way that I could give you a little bit back for you to explore your own musicianship, et cetera, et cetera. Let me pull up some questions from you all for myself before we get our special guests in here. Yeah. This is one that really stuck with me. This is from Jazzmaster, and I abbreviated it. His question was, I've been doing my best to learn as much as I can on all the instruments which I have in my possession, but all the musicians I'm beset with seem to be very skeptical about that, and I can't help but feeling uncertain about the path I've chosen. What are the chances to go full-time playing multiple instruments in the modern music industry, or will I have to focus on one? I get asked that a lot as a multi-instrumentalist, and I think the answer to that is you can focus on one, and you can relate with one and identify with one, but the more other instruments you play, the more that's going to influence and contribute your vocabulary and your musicianship on every other instrument you play. And so I think that equal import should be put on learning a number of different instruments in the ensemble so you can understand the roles and the positions of those instruments and let them inform how you perform on other instruments. When I was in high school, I thought I was going to go to college as a drummer. I was playing jazz, drums, big band. And then I ended up going as a bass player. But my foundation as a drummer was I think the number one best thing for my bass playing, because it gave me a sense of groove and feel and a way to lock in with the drummer and sort of spidey sense predict what they were going to do based on what my instinct were as a drummer. So my answer to that is learn as many instruments as you want. It can only help you. I'll do one more before I bring in our next special guest here. Let's see here. When the pandemic, here we go. When this pandemic is all over, we're certainly going to get back to playing some live shows, definitely locally here in New York. But we're currently in talks with some people about maybe putting together a U.S. tour. We've got our sights set on some big cities internationally, close to the U.S., maybe overseas. So definitely keep an eye out coming forward, because we certainly have plans to do that. I'm going to bring in our next special guest. This is a surprise. This is one of my favorite musicians. He has a skill set that just truly blows my mind. I'll give you a little taste of that. This is Zach Zinger. Hey, Zach. How you doing?
How you doing?
I wanted to bring Zach in on this thing. Yeah, of course. My pleasure. I literally texted Zach 10 minutes ago. Here he is. I thought he might give you just a little bit of music. Zach specializes in one of my favorite instruments that I actually can't play, which is the shakuhachi, a Japanese instrument. I'll let him tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I saw that question right before I came in about playing multiple instruments and whether that's okay to do. And I like to think, if you go one direction with just one instrument, like you can focus on that and get really, really far with that. And we see some really great specialists out there who do incredible things. But you can also, by playing multiple instruments, you can learn so much about different, for writing. It's really valuable to be able to write for different instruments. It's really valuable just to have a different perspective on like the difference between playing a string instrument and a wind instrument. Expressing yourself on those two is completely different. And then in the case of the shakuhachi, you can learn about a different culture and learn a completely different perspective on music. And that's what I found with this instrument. And it's really been fulfilling in that way.
Yeah. And so the one thing that I love about what you do is because you grew up with a jazz background, and then, later at one point in your life, you started getting into Japanese music and you discovered this Japanese instrument. You're able to like really merge those two things, right? So like, why don't you give us a little taste of like what traditional shakuhachi might sound like, and then how you give us a taste of something that like is jazz shakuhachi, which is a more contemporary thing.
Sure. So it's really, really deep. There's a ton to study, and it takes, as I say in the shakuhachi world, it takes a lifetime to master. But one thing that I find really useful to borrow from Japanese traditional music and bring into a jazz context is, so you don't use your tongue when you're re-articulating notes on the shakuhachi in traditional music. Instead, you use what we call it atari. So you'll quickly flip a finger open, and that'll give you this kind of sound. As opposed to.
Cool.
So that automatically just gives you this Japanese kind of sound, So one way I've found to kind of work that in to a jazz context is, when singers go like Buddha da 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 da, like they put that grace note. Yeah, they always just kind of a little flip da da da. So you could do that just by bending up. To the half step up. That's what you do on a flute or on a saxophone. But by using that flipping thing, it actually goes up like kind of a minor third. So it sounds really cool. And it's like an Asian R&B sort of thing. So I find that to be a kind of cool thing that you can borrow from one or the other. But they have their own concept of swing. There's so much stuff.
Now, can you indulge me in my jazz nerd fantasies and play giant steps on the shakuhachi?
The head is actually pretty easy.
Right.
I don't remember the rest of it. Just the first few
That's
notes.
killing. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that so much.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Yeah.
All right, man. Oh, I wanted to say congrats on the new track coming out. I can't wait to see what it sounds like. I've got the
Thanks so
perfect
much.
beer to celebrate with you.
I love that. Oh.
Yeah. So
thanks, man. I'll talk
cheers.
to you later. Cheers.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know exactly who that was Zach Zinger, who plays the tenor two book in the 8-bit big band. He's also a specialist in a number of world instruments. And so he really personifies what it means to play a number of instruments and how they might influence each other. Before I bring in our special guests, I'll take one more question. I'm scrolling through my questions lists here, and I'm seeing a lot of questions that are about like, how do you arrange video game music? How do you take these things and come up with the ideas? How do you take one song, make it into another thing? Where do the sparks come from? Where do the ideas come from? And the truth is that really boils down to what it means to be an arranger, orchestrator, producer. I say those things together because depending on the genre, they all basically are the same thing. In jazz, we say arranger, we're writing notes down, but you're also producing the tracks, recording technique. They all kind of go together. And the answer to that is, I think the more kinds of music you can be familiar with, if you just listen, many genres, and really think about what are the building blocks of those genres, right? So you think, okay, in this genre, they use these kinds of chord changes, these grooves, these melodic shapes, these instruments, and really boil down genres to their essential ingredients so that when you hear another piece of music, you do what arranging really is, which is hearing the unrealized potential in a piece of music and being inspired by your bag of tricks that you've analyzed over the years, how you might add to that piece of music to enhance it, to take it into another direction. You can really take it in a whole other direction. If you hear a certain melodic phrase that, sort of triggers another genre, you go, oh, that one phrase, for the example I use a lot is our arrangement of Still Alive, which is a pop song, but, something about the melodic contour of it and the modulation into another key for the chorus just sort of triggered this, like, oh, this could be jazz. Like this could be easily into a swing Frank Sinatra thing. So it's really making sure you have the vocabulary at your disposal of various styles so that when you get that little spark of inspiration from one moment in a piece of music, you know how far you can run with it in which direction. I think it's a good time to bring in one of our special guests here. Here's Insaneintherain, everybody. What's up?
Hello.
Okay.
I spent the last 5 minutes trying to wrap my piano into this whole setup. So it's not going through my microphone.
Figure it out. Yeah, I still was trying to figure that out. I just swing my mic around.
That works too.
It's not nearly as slick. You really got the thing set up. Yeah. So Carlos, I have a lot of questions here about like, how do you start to approach, your arrangements? Like, when do you hear a song? What do you do first? Do you get the idea first? Do you play around with it? There's a number of questions like that. So if you want to just talk a little bit about like step one of your process, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I think step one is like the hardest step to nail down. It's the creative process in the brain is really, really interesting. And I think having like from the reading I've done about it, it's very much a subconscious process. I feel that if I try and actively sit down and say like, okay, write this arrangement, come up with an amazing idea right now, most of the time it doesn't work, or the idea that comes out is somewhat subpar. Right. I think that there's something to be said about having learning a song, having it in your head, and then just listening to a lot of music. Most of my arrangements come to me. They come to mind when I'm like, I say like, oh, this specific song from Fire Emblem Fates would sound really good if it was played with a piano quintuplet feel like Tigran Hamasyan, you know. And you take those two elements and you know how to construct them and you put them together. And I'm sure, and you've done that kind of sometimes, like you were just talking about with Still Alive, which is very much like the fusion of two things that have already existed into an idea that seems original, but is really just, taken from what you've heard before. Right.
And like you're saying, it's really important that both of those melodies be really in your bones, because that is when the subconscious fusion happens. If they're both just in there and they mix around and without you knowing it, suddenly you're like, oh shit. Or, I thought I was not first on this. Sorry, everybody. Oh, dang. I did not think of that.
It's your channel. You can do what you want.
Yeah. There's some people that have kids and they asked me if this was going to be PG. So I'm trying to stick to that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Here's a question for you that I also wanted to know.
Where did I come up with my name? Oh, okay. All right. I must tell this story on like Twitch about like once a stream now, but I'll tell it now. Okay. So there I was in middle school, ages ago. I don't remember when that was. And I was at the time, I had this YouTube channel before Insane in the Rain music that was also called Insane in the Rain with some like little suffix after that. And on that channel, I was posting 3D animation tutorials to make Minecraft music videos.
Oh my God.
Because that's what I was into in middle school.
I love that.
And then before that channel, there was a Let's Play channel called Just Insane in the Rain, where I uploaded like one episode of one game. Okay. So this must have been like sixth grade or something. And at the time, I was playing Pokemon Black and White or something, and I was really getting into competitive Pokemon. So I spent all this time researching Pokemon and learning about EV training and breeding. And eventually, it's this. And if you're not familiar with the process, you have to like breed Pokemon and like many times over to get the best stats and train them against finding the right things to get their stats optimized. And the first Pokemon I did that with was this Pokemon called Omastar. And it had this move called Shell Smash, which basically makes it really strong, really fast. But it has an ability called Swift Swim, which doubles its speed in the rain. So I was in a battle with it, and it was in the rain, and I was like, man, this Omastar is just really good. It's like insane in the rain. That's the story.
Do you have perfect pitch?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean,
you probably just guessed that was C.
No, I knew it was C. I didn't guess. I knew it was C.
You knew. You have really good pitch.
Maybe, I don't know.
Nice.
All right, man. Dylan, how many notes are in this chord?
Yeah, exactly. I had to say that. Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, well, shit. Let's bring in our next special guest. Look, everybody.
Hey,
hello.
Oh, hey, let me get in the frame. There we go. And
there he is.
Oh, very nice, everybody. In harmony now.
Yo, what's up, Adam? How's it going?
How's it going, guys? This is very exciting. The three of us on screen now.
No, legendary.
That's one more than before.
Yeah.
We're all like awkwardly like kind of looking at each other, but not really.
I know. My webcam is not even centered at all with where I am. Not even close.
That's all right. Charlie, I had a question for you, actually.
Yeah, please.
You were talking about the Omni book, the 8-bit big band Omni book, and it made me think of like the real book. Oh, I just got really loud for some reason.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. You've said before, I think in interviews, about creating a new American songbook with this whole video game thing. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something that I talk about a lot when people want to interview me about this band, and it is there's kind of the key phrase right there that people seem to really latch onto is, we talk a lot about the Great American Songbook. That's standards, things that were pop music from Broadway shows back in the day that became like a catalog of songs that in Western culture we're very familiar with and are like a set group of songs that we know and love as part of culture. And there's a number of set groups of pieces of music that are considered part of like a songbook. There's film scores, the Great American Songbook, jazz standards, and they are all coupled with the experiences of various generations consuming a type of media and relating their experiences of hearing that song with that type of media. So you're looking at Broadway shows, those and their cast albums, film scores, and the songs related to those film scores. Now we're in a time when we have a whole new body of music that we can relate to the experience of growing up and playing these games, the Great Video Game Songbook. And we're now at a point when that has become ubiquitous enough amongst a group of people that we can start reinterpreting it and rearranging it in the same way that people did with the Great American Songbook and jazz standards, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have a whole generation of people that are now appreciative of a whole new collection of music called the Great Video Game Songbook, which is a phrase that I'm going to keep plugging over and over and over until other people besides me start saying it.
Dude, you have the pitch down very well. And
that's really well said.
Yeah.
Like that pitch? Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, it's super exciting to see it like develop, especially in like people like you guys who are really creating the songbook, and it's only going to get bigger and more established over the next 5 years. And I'm calling it right now.
That's the thing that's so exciting about doing this project is it's like the amount of people that are as passionate about contributing to this body of work and this type of music that just even lent their, brief instrumental abilities to this song is just so inspiring. And it helps us all to continue to explore what the Great Video Game Songbook can be,
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the results of this. It's kind of I was thinking about it. This is the largest number of musicians I've ever played with by far.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of insane. In the rain.
In the rain.
That didn't make any sense.
People.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Here's the question for you, for the group, but Adam, why don't you start since you just came? What advice would you give to young aspiring musicians, and what are some misconceptions about the music industry? Let's pause there. And if you want to talk about production, you can, but I think misconceptions about the music industry and young musician advice is the key here.
Well, I think the importance of collaboration. Oh, geez, I don't know what's going on with my gain, but the importance of collaboration is very important. I think some people think of competing with other musicians. You'll definitely see that a lot. And I think the more that you find other people and play with them and don't think of musicians as your competitors and think of them as your peers and your resources, I think that's very, very important in music. Because, music is a communal activity. I don't know what's going on with my microphone. Music is a communal activity. And that is very important. And you will go places if you make sure to find your tribe and stick with them and really develop a community based around the people around you. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important thing.
Yeah. Carlos, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think Adam's absolutely right in that. For me, I can really only speak to my own situation. When I was growing up, I mean, I guess I'm still growing up. I'm probably the youngest one here, but when I was in middle school and high school working on music, I was never the kid who practiced a lot. Instead, I wasn't. It wasn't like I was sitting down and drilling this same scale over and over again. Instead, I was in the library exploring what video game music MIDI files I could find on the internet. And I think that's a valid approach that should be taken more. Not specifically those actions, but instead of approaching practice as something that is very you have to get in the gym and grind, that kind of thing, which you do to some extent. But I think if you approach it from a sense of exploration and just having fun and creating things that will include some sort of practicing as part of the creation of that thing, I think that's a much more sustainable and much more fun process that a lot of young musicians could benefit from. I also wanted to say about the great video game songbook that you were talking about. So that is bless your heart for doing that. that's my dream, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to make the chat aware of this website called VG Lead Sheets.
Nice.
Which is one of the closest things to a legit video game music real book that exists out there. Probably not legal.
Definitely going to publish one. I'm calling it within the year.
Yeah,
well, they're gonna try and publish one.
I know that there is some. I've heard there is some
Bartley,
talk
right?
about doing that.
Oh,
Isn't Patrick Bartley kind of leading the brigade on that in some way? I think he talks about that sometimes, right?
He has one, and he has his, well, not anymore, but he had that one jam at, was it Black Cat in the Lower East Side?
Yeah, Lower East, right.
Where he would always bring a real book for everybody, his own thing.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
It's kind of funny because it's history is repeating itself. That's what the original real book was an illegal just stack of lead sheets that were literally in Boston. You would buy it from the back of a guy, the trunk of a pickup truck or whatever. And Patrick Bartley is that guy right now.
Patrick Bartley is the guy with the van now.
Yeah,
he's the guy.
So it's at some point we're gonna get a legit version of it.
Right.
Yeah, and there are several unofficial people have compiled their own unofficial real books. I have a few on my iPad of separate video game music real books that people put together.
Nice, yeah.
I think there are some programs that have. I know that Music Notes is doing this thing where they're licensing YouTube performances and allowing you to distribute the sheet music from that. I don't know how legit that is, but it's moving in the direction of there being more video game sheet music accessible. And groups like the Materia Collective have also been leading the charge on that as well.
Yeah. Cool. Love that. Here's one for Carlos and I guess myself and Adam. Maybe this applies to you. I don't know. I'm not sure. What was the first video game tune you ever arranged? How did it turn out? Did it suck? Also, what's your favorite KK tune? I have a strong opinion about that. Who do you main in Smash? Carlos.
Okay. So let's start off with my favorite KK tune. KK Disco.
Yeah, my man. It's the best one. I'm about to close the ring.
That one's so good. There we go. There we go.
That's the jam.
Yeah, it's either that one or good old
Which one's that?
KK Cruisin'.
Oh, Cruise.
Anyway,
I have not requested that yet.
That's a good one.
I gotta get that.
That's the easy question in this section. The first video game tune I ever arranged. Oh my gosh. The first, okay, I'm not sure if you count this as an arrangement, but the first thing I remember in terms of my own involvement with creating one of my renditions of video game music, I was probably in the 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I had just discovered, I think, VGMIDI.com, and I found the MIDI file for the Lance Champion Battle from Pokemon Gold and Silver. And the computers at my school at the time had Sibelius on them, and I discovered that you could open MIDI files in Sibelius. And I was amazed, like, this video game music has notes in it? And I was just so blown away by that. So I printed out all the parts of MIDI, and if you've ever imported MIDI into a sheet music before, you know how awful it looks. So I did that with the Lance battle theme, went home to my Casio keyboard with like a bunch of different sounds, set the metronome, and recorded myself playing every instrument in that, and like layered it on top of each other using the different sounds. And then I had a version of the Lance battle theme I could play on my keyboard by just pressing the start button.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was great.
So it did not suck, is what you're saying. It was great.
Well, I mean, depends what you mean by suck.
I think the first one I ever arranged, I think I was a freshman in high school when I arranged Bob on Battlefield for Big Band. That arrangement did not survive. I don't know what it sounds like anymore. I just know that I did it. The one we have now is not that. It probably sucked. I bet the trumpet parts were way too high. You know, I bet the saxes were out of range. None of it made sense. So the answer is it probably sucked. My favorite KK tune is also KK Disco, and I like playing as Rob. Yay, we did it. Unless, Adam, you have a video game tune you want to chime in.
I really haven't been doing much video game arranging, but I definitely at one point did a tapped version of that. Yeah, I feel like every bass player does a tapped version.
That counts. That was the first video game. You did it.
I did it, and that's all I did. That's all I can contribute to the canon.
Actually, Adam, there's a number of questions for you that are similar. A lot of people are asking, like, basically, like, if you could recommend one piece of music literature or book. A lot of people were saying to like talk about getting into music theory or something that explains music theory in a way that like is easy to understand but still deep. Like, do you have anything like that to recommend?
Well, I've tried to figure out a good resource, and it's hard for me to recommend anything because everybody's coming to it from a different place. I do really like actually Andrew Huang's Learn Music Theory in a half an hour. There's a video that he released. It's literally just that. He goes over the basics. It's a pretty solid introduction for somebody who doesn't know anything about music theory. It's you sit down and you learn the notes, you learn basics about chord construction, you learn basics about scales and all that stuff. But it's difficult to point to any one resource because everybody's coming at it from a different place. Because if you already know the very basics, you can go any number of different ways.
Right.
So I think that's just a fun introduction. And Andrew Huang, if you don't know, is just a really lovely human being and a great YouTuber. So go check it out at some point.
And also somebody wanted me to ask you which movement of the planets you like better.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Jupiter.
I know. Yeah, Jupiter.
Oh, so beautiful.
I know, but Mars is so classic. It's hard. It's a hard one. Yeah, I mean, I think Mars was the first time I was like, oh, 5/4, cool. That's dope.
It's metal as hell.
That's
like
metal.
It's the first 5/4 song that doesn't feel like Mission Impossible to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, it was kind of the first time I heard a piece of orchestra music and I was like, this fucking rocks. All I wanted to do was play Led Zeppelin in middle school. And I was like, oh, cool. Orchestra music can rock. Yeah. And then also somebody wanted me to ask you this.
Yes. Yes, I do. It depends on what you're asking, though. Are you asking black beans or are you asking red beans? There's a big difference between the two. It's a big historical and musical difference between the two. I do enjoy beans.
I am on the outside of this inside joke.
Me too. Me too.
Me too. Great. Yeah. This is really fun, y'all. I mean, we should do this more often. Are you guys enjoying yourselves? Are you out there enjoying this?
I'm having a great time.
Good. Yeah. I mean, would people be into, me doing... I guess I should, one thing I've also been meaning to announce I didn't talk about earlier is like, I would be very into, if people were into this, doing like lessons, or like I've always wanted to sort of do a video series on like arranging, or like I'd be doing, if people are interested, They can reach out to me.
You know they are. 100%
Yeah,
they
they're
are.
probably
interested.
are, yeah.
They want it.
If you have
Give the
to
people what they
ask,
want.
don't bother asking. You know.
Then I'm gonna get started and maybe reach out and do some private arranging instruction if people are interested in that. Make some video content. That's something I've kind of always wanted to do. And
Have you published that MagFest presentation you did? Anywhere?
There is a video of it on the MagFest channel, and I recommend everyone go check it out. I was really proud of it. It's all about like intro to arranging and how to use arranging functionally and artistically, and breaking down what arranging is, all using video game music examples. I don't remember what the title of it is though, but I bet if you search MagFest Charlie Rosen, it'll come out. And the other thing about that is it's the only existing copy of it, because shortly after that, a drummer spilled a cup of water on my computer and I lost the whole thing.
No,
wasn't backed up. It's gone.
I hope the drummer was fired.
Was it Brian?
It was not Brian. It was not Jared.
That was a great presentation. Yeah, you should go check it out.
I know, and I was like, I should make videos of stuff like that. Yeah.
But I love this live stream format, dude, just where you're bringing in different people, and plenty of musicians. There are plenty of people who you can bring in.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think we have time for probably 2 more questions, depending on how thick they are. This is a kind of a funny one that that stuck with me. Oh no! Oh, did I freeze? No. My computer scared me. Here's one for Adam, and I have an opinion about this, and Carlos probably does too. What do you think about double bass solos? I try really hard to enjoy them, but they're so low and percussive, it's almost inaudible. Am I listening to them wrong?
There's like a Twitter joke of saying, I really like jazz. At some point, the bass takes a solo, and it's like a friendly whale talking to you.
It is.
I've heard some amazing double bass solos. One of my favorite double bass soloists is Christian McBride. I just really like how he plays. It's just just awesome.
Yeah.
But it's such a difficult, the energy dies every time. Even if you play some virtuosic stuff too. So it needs to be the right moment. I'll say that for a double bass solo. Yeah.
That's my answer too, is like, totally. You go to a jam session, inevitably the bass player solos every single chart. But the thing about upright bass is it's such a specific timbre and the note duration is so short. And also we're making that instrument do things that it was not designed to do. It is a really cumbersome instrument to play, and it's hard to play. And, I don't know if I'm biased, but I think the deck is stacked a little bit in jazz against double bass because it's just so cumbersome to play. You have to move it's so physical. And so I think there really is a time and a place for a great bass solo. It's such an emotive sound. It's such a specific orchestrational choice.
Yeah. It can work in the right setting. In my my all-state experience in high school, there was this really, I think it was a Elaine Elias, is that how you say your name? I forget her name, but it was this tune that she written, and there was like an open double bass solo in the middle, and this guy had played the double bass like I'd never seen it before. Like, granted, it wasn't a traditional like a bebop solo, but it was like he used some really strange bow techniques I had never seen before, and I think in the right context, if it's preceded and followed by the right things, it can be incredible, just like you said.
Right.
Yeah, there's some pretty amazing double bass soloists. There's a Spanish guy, I think he's Spanish, by the name of Renaud Garcia Fons, who plays a 5-string upright bass with a arco, and so he plays like flamenco type things, and it sounds amazing because it doesn't sound like upright bass. There's Edgar Meyer, of course, who plays with impeccable technique, perfect technique, and it's amazing. But he's not like playing Donnelly or whatever. I'm sure he could.
Probably could, yeah.
Yeah. But and if he did, I don't know, I probably wouldn't like it that much because they understand that it's an upright bass and they understand its function and they understand how to make it soloistic. But it's hard to make it soloistic in jazz because it just feels better when you walk a bass line. Like it just does. But Charles Mingus, somebody said in the chat. I mean, I guess Mingus is probably the closest I could get down with a Mingus solo. But
Mingus.
Yeah,
totally. Well, here's one that'll probably take us to the end. This is from Dom. We know Dom. We love Dom.
Hey, Dom.
What was the breakthrough or insightful moment in your lives that helped push your career to the next level? And what were some ways that you managed to help keep yourself organized? Especially now.
Yeah, I need the organization help.
Yeah,
The breakthrough, I mean, for me was, you know, the YouTube algorithm blessed me. And so like I now give offerings to the YouTube algorithm every day and just hope that it continues to bless me. That was the big breakthrough, I think. And, you know, before that I wasn't doing, you know, you do different things in your career and you move to where the opportunities are. And it's important to be versatile and to know when to take opportunities because, you know, maybe you'll be doing the same thing for 10 years and then all of a sudden something really awesome occurs and you need to have the courage to switch lanes, especially now with quarantine and everything. Manage ways to help keep yourself organized.
I don't know that one either, but I have a lot of opinions on the first part, not as many on the second part.
Yeah, pass.
I mean, if I could go with, there's one thing I think now is a particularly good time to answer this question, because, you know, things are going to happen beyond our control that are going to heavily affect our ability to do our jobs as musicians. And this is for musicians out there, and maybe for others. I can only speak to it as a musician, but the entire nature of the game has changed, and now is the opportunity to adapt. And I just guest lectured an NYU orchestra class. I actually sent them an 8-bit big band arrangement to record remotely, send back to me so that I could do a virtual rehearsal and listen to them and critique them. And they sounded really good. But, you know, a lot of them had not worked on this kind of thing. They'd never recorded themselves. And this was a really great opportunity for them to learn those skills for the first time. And also for a number of you out there that contributed to this. A lot of people said, oh, this is really cool. It's the first time I've recorded myself playing, submitted myself. And that's really fantastic and a way to open the door into this whole new set of skill sets that now more than ever is becoming essential and is not going to go away when this is over. So if any of you are breaking into professional music scenes, I think the most important thing to do is diversify your skill set, learn how to use the computer, learn to record yourself, learn a little about arranging, obviously, you know, double if you can, but like learning these tech skills and finding ways to adapt so that you become more hireable and desirable as a musician in the future is probably like the number one thing I'd say through the years has been the thing that helped me broke through, is someone who was multifaceted and had a lot of skills and could fit into a number of different musical situations.
Yeah, the versatility is important. It's not even versatility, it's the ability to switch roles. It's the ability to commit yourself to one thing and then at the right moment understand that you need to learn a new set of skills and then commit to that. Right. And that's more than just being able to play your instrument well. That's recording yourself. That's being able to do live streams where the gain isn't all screwy on the microphone. I think hopefully the gain is now okay.
It's been good for a while.
It's been good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Sweet. I fixed it. I was versatile. Heck yes.
Carlos?
I would say that the moment in my life or my short so far career was pushed to the next level was in 2016 when I released this album called Live at Grilby's, which was the my jazz arrangement album of Undertale music, and that album sort of, I mean, for my standards, like went viral in terms of anything I released before, and it took that to show me that creating arrangements of video game music on YouTube was, you know, not only possible but something that enough people wanted to see where you can make a career out of it in some degree. And for me, it was like I had been, you know, accumulating the skills by making the videos and putting in the time the years before. But when that happened, it was, you know, the proof that this was actually worth something, that you could actually continue doing it. Right. And I think that we all have, like, a lot of our careers are like steady for a while, and then something happens and you jump up, and like that's how it goes. While the skill building is more linear, I think the recognitions you get by society might be a lot more step function as opposed to linear or logarithmic.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's like you're developing these skills, and so what that's doing is A, setting you up to, in the right time, right place, you have what it needs in order to take that next step, and B, you're developing something that's unique to you that brings people to you, that says like, here's what I have to offer that's different than other people, that you like, you're creating your own demand in a way.
Right. To answer the second half of that question about keeping yourself organized, if you guys don't want to contribute organizational tips,
I have ideas, but you're probably better.
My few are especially like somebody like me, and presumably you too, Adam, who has been like a self-employed person, at least just to some extent in your life for quite a bit of time. And now a lot of us are effectively living like we're self-employed. You know, if you live at home and you have to work at home. Simple things like setting work hours, setting goals for the day, time boxing. Like before I go to bed every night, the night before, I can't like I make a calendar for my entire day of like what you're gonna do
Wow.
at each hour, and you don't necessarily have to follow that to a T. But the importance is to go, like when you're playing a solo, go in there with an intention to do something rather than just vomit out whatever licks come
Damn,
to your mind.
Good for you, man. That's great.
There's a great CGP Grey video called Spaceship U.
Yes, I love that video.
And to me, that kind of, I don't want to say changed my life, but it definitely put things in perspective. And it came out relatively recently.
Wow. I'm looking
And it was
it up.
basically, the whole thing is an analogy for when we're all in quarantine, we're all in our own spaceships away from everybody else, and we have to keep the spaceship running. And it's very important to do certain things. And one of the important things is to delineate physical spaces within your work environment and your home environment, because it's the same thing. So you have your workspace, which is physically here.
Right.
You got your sleep space, which is physically here. You have your
Right.
eat space,
Yeah.
which is physically in a different place. And then you have your recreation space. And they all might be within like several feet of one another. But for me, for years and years, I was just, I got my computer. I got, I sit down with my food after I make it and I eat it
Right.
at the computer.
Right.
I watch YouTube videos at the computer. It's like I live in this chair.
Right.
But the fact that I've now started separating things physically, just going to a different place in my apartment, has actually helped a lot. And I think that's something that I didn't even really realize, but
Wow.
that has helped me get organized, or at least organize my life in a way that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
Not
I'll
a
have
lot,
to check that
but a little
video
bit.
out. That's
Great.
amazing.
Even
Yeah,
if
it's
your
good.
apartment is very small, like mine
Yeah,
is,
like ours. Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
If you see that thing right there, that's my bed. And during my work days, I flip my bed up on the side
Mm,
to effectively change my room mode from sleep mode to work mode.
that's killing.
Because
That's so
there's
good.
like I there's no space to do anything with this bed in here. So I was
Wow.
like, let's just flip up this bed. I don't need it.
There you go. Guys, I think we're actually out of time, but I really want to thank you both for coming on the stream. It was really an interesting chat with you. Super awesome. Thanks everyone for submitting questions. And yeah, I'm going to say goodbye to you two for now. Take care. Thanks again.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
So that's it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This was really fun. I'm going to definitely want to do this again. As some of you may have seen already, the video is currently live on our a different video. So just head over to our channel and check out the video there. Lifelight 664 musicians. We all did this together. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing this. And thank you for tuning in. And hey, long live video game music. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.